as highlighted with by Shakur, that can we have a difference between checked and unchecked exception with the programming example? So let's try to take that example today. Okay, so we know that all the childs of exception, those are direct child of exception. So IO exception is a direct child of exception. Okay, SQL exception is a direct child of exception. Okay, file not found exception is a direct child of exception. So if any of these exceptions will occur, the compiler will be very strict in checking whether you have handled them or not, or what measures you have taken to handle the exception. And those who are under the umbrella of runtime exception, the compiler will not be that strict in checking what measures you have taken to handle the exception. So if there is an null pointer exception, okay, so if I am seeing that there can be a null pointer exception occurring, but still the compiler will compile my code even if I do not show any handling mechanism to the compiler. So let's come over here. So yesterday we had discussed, right? So let me just take this class, paste it over here, checked, unchecked demo. So now I'm removing the try. Oh, yeah, okay. Or yeah, removing the catches also. Now, isn't there a probability of this line throwing a exception? Yes, no, maybe. Which exception? Array index out of bound exception, correct? So as a programmer, I can clearly see this line will throw array index out of bound exception, correct? And isn't this line going to throw null pointer exception? If I enter 10 and 0, isn't this line going to throw arithmetic exception? Yes. And if I say over here enter apple, is it not going to throw? So as a programmer, I can see that these four exceptions can be thrown. But as they all are checked exception, what are they? My compiler is not being strict in checking what mechanism you have taken to handle the exception. It is not being strict that first you show me how you will handle it, then only I will compile the code. It is not being strict at all. See, my code is still compiling and my code will run also. Code will compile also and see code will run also. And at runtime it will fail. If I write over here new student, now this will not occur, correct? But these three can still occur. Okay. If I write over here one, this will also will not occur. But chances are still there of occurrence of input mismatch and arithmetic, yes or no? But is my compiler warning me that these exceptions can occur What mechanism have you done to handle them? Is my compiler warning me? No. Why no? Because these exceptions are child of runtime exception. Child of and children of runtime exception are children of runtime exception are unchecked exception. Which are they? So my code will compile, and at runtime, if anything happens, the code will collapse. See, my code is compiling. If runtime anything happens, code will collapse. If I enter anything at runtime, the code will collapse over there. Correct? So as a programmer, I can see that this can lead to exception, but the compiler is being blind to that. Yes or no? Now, had it been checked exceptions, had it been, so I can call this class as unchecked demo. This is only checking all the unchecked. Okay, so now let's take a checked example. Let's take a checked exception example, and here you will see. So in checked, see what happens. So IO exception is checked or unchecked? Checked. Okay, see, to accept the input from user, we have many ways. One of them is scanner, but scanner will take one input at a time. Scanner will take what? So if I have two numbers, integer num1 and num2, and I want to initialize both of them by taking value from the user, how will I take that? Please enter number 1, and then I will take it into which variable? Num1 equals to sc dot text int, correct? And then when I say second, it will take the second number, correct? Yes or no? So it will take one at a time. If I want to take both of them together, if I want to display this message, please enter two numbers. Now what? Now I cannot use scanner to scan this. So for that we have buffered reader. What we have? Buffered reader. Make object of buffered reader is new buffered reader. Okay, import it. And this is then the IO package. It is then which package? Buffered reader. And it will take new input stream reader, and that will take from the keyboard, that is system.in. Making sense, guys? And how we have next prefix to the methods of the scanner. Likewise, we have read prefix to the methods of the buffered reader. What is prefixed? Read. So if you want to read a number using scanner, so you will say please enter number 1. Okay, let's see, read one at a time. So we'll go in which variable? Num1. And how will you read that? Dr dot read line. What will you do? Now this read line is a method of the this read line method has a tendency of throwing IO exception. Tendency of throwing which exception? So why is the compiler putting a red line over there? Okay, so I'll have to convert this into an integer. So I'm showing into num. So I will say integer dot parse int. Now everything is good, but still the compiler is showing me red line. Reason, this method has a tendency of throwing which exception? IO exception. IO exception is in which category? Checked or unchecked? So the compiler is asking me what mechanism you have taken to handle the exception. Have I shown the compiler any handling mechanism? The compiler will not compile the code. See, it is showing a red. So if you hover the mouse, see what it says. What it says, it is an unhandled exception. Then it will asking me what you are taken to handle this. I will say, okay, I will do the try catch. So see, I will say, okay, I have done a try catch. No need to worry. So once I say that, then it will handle. Then the error will go. Getting it? So that line which was going throwing an exception, I put into try. Written some exception handling code. So now it is compiling my code. Why is it compiling now? Because as IO exception is a checked exception, compulsory you have to show the handling mechanism. Is that making sense to you all? Got the difference, Abdul Shakur? Is he there? Okay, let's